great question, and one I started asking on Monday. Because essentially what we're going from is a fully operational theater, right? So that allows us to move pieces on and off stage from the wings, or fly them in and out and present an entire scenic world, an entire lighting world, and an entirely costumed group of artists on stage. Now, the venue that we're going to be in, which is gorgeous, by the way, I highly suggest, if you're not familiar with the Visu Concert Hall at Cleveland, that you Google and look up images. It is a beautiful blonde wood concert venue that is, of course, not set up to encompass large amounts of scenery, space to move anything on or off stage, or up and down. So that threw us a real curveball, but I firmly believe that sometimes the most magical things happen in unexpected circumstances. And so we quickly, once Tony had secured the space, we quickly went and looked at it and said, okay, what can we do? How do we keep as much of a living, breathing, visual story involved with this production as possible, as opposed to allowing it to really just become a concert? And a couple of puzzle pieces fell into place rather quickly. The first is that there is certainly the room on the stage to be able to stage the principals with Maestro and the orchestra just behind them. And so one of the first decisions that we made was we should absolutely maintain the original costume design done by a brilliant gentleman named Eric Teague on all of the principals. So everybody in the main roles, you will still see costumed, okay? Then the question became, okay, how, if all, or if at all, can we transform that environment to help continue to tell the visual story? And I'm not gonna lie, I was stumped. I thought, okay, I've got columns that are too big, I can't bring those in here. I don't necessarily have the lighting equipment to be able to isolate areas. What do I do? And two puzzle pieces fell into place. The first was that when we viewed the space, the ability to project onto a large screen in the back of the space became feasible. Okay, that's great, but my production wasn't designed with projection, so what do I do? So I quickly got into a conversation with Daniel Chapman, who's our lighting designer, and again with Eric Teague, and say, okay, how can we maintain a world? And Eric, who is a brilliant artist beyond being a costume designer, said, why don't we take the original research? Why don't we look at the visual artistry that was inspired by Lance McGoldrick, who's the visual and set designer, and see if we can paint watercolors that are of that world that we can then project onto the screen in order to give a sense of environment. So our hope, if anybody has seen a Ken Burns documentary, you know how they'll take a photograph and he'll start in one small area and then expand it or move across it to tell a story? That is the kind of thing that we are now going to do with these watercolors. And so we will start to show areas that help tell things like what the environment or the location is of any given scene. It will also help set the mood, both of what the characters are going through and expressing in their text, in combination with the music of the piece, and it can help define, now that I'm limited with staging, really awe-inspiring moments in the opera, like the arrival of the swan, or the larger fight sequences that are there. It's going to open a window to interpretation that actually we didn't have before, but now this supremely clever team has figured out a way to do. So I think, and I hope that you'll find that what you're coming to see is an interesting combination of what will become a very strong piece musically, because the acoustics in the hall are stunning, supplemented by a sense of the world and the character that we're able to provide in that space. And I think it's going to be quite a unique experience.